golden spires of Asgard shimmered under a brilliant sky, their light reflected in the flowing waters of the Bifrost. Far beyond the celestial city, in the rolling golden fields of Vigrid, a fiery object streaked across the heavens. The warriors three, Volstagg, Fandral, and Hogun, stood at the edge of the field, watching as the flaming object crashed into the ground with a deafening roar. Volstagg was the first to approach, his curiosity outweighing caution. "What in Odin's name is that?" "Careful, Volstagg," Hogun warned, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. "It could be a trap." Fandral, ever the optimist, stepped forward with a flourish. Or it could be treasure. As the smoke cleared, they saw a metallic pod embedded in the earth. The strange object hummed faintly, its surface etched with symbols they couldn't recognize. Volstagg peered inside through a small window and gasped, "By the Allfather, it's a child." The pod opened with a soft hiss, revealing an infant wrapped in a red cape. The baby's eyes opened, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. He cooed softly, his tiny hands reaching out as if unafraid of the three warriors towering over him. "This is no ordinary child," Fandral said, his voice filled with awe. "We must take him to Odin." In the grand hall of the palace, the warriors three presented the child to Odin, Allfather of Asgard. Frigga, his queen, stood beside him, her expression softening at the sight of the infant. Thor and Loki, still young but already displaying their distinct personalities, watched from a distance. "What manner of creature is this?" Odin asked, descending from his throne. He studied the child with a mix of curiosity and caution. "He is no frost giant, nor does he belong to any realm I have known. He fell from the sky, Allfather," Volstagg explained, "in a metal vessel unlike anything we've seen." Frigga approached the child, her maternal instincts guiding her. The baby reached for her, his tiny fingers brushing against her hand. "He is strong," she said, her voice warm, "but there is no malice in him." Odin considered her words, his gaze heavy with thought. "If the Norns have brought him to us, there must be a purpose." Thor, unable to contain his excitement, rushed forward. "Father, can we keep him? He could be our brother." Loki sneered from the sidelines. "Another mouth to feed, and for what? We don't even know what he is." Frigga silenced Loki with a glance before turning to Odin. "He is alone, Odin. Let us give him a home." After a long pause, Odin nodded. "Very well. He shall be raised as one of our own. He will be taught the ways of Asgard, to uphold its honor and defend its people. And he shall have a name befitting a warrior." Frigga smiled. "We shall call him Cal." Years passed, and Cal grew alongside Thor and Loki in the golden halls of Asgard. While Thor excelled in combat and Loki in magic, Cal's abilities set him apart. His Kryptonian physiology, bathed in the unique light of Asgard, granted him immense strength, near invulnerability, and the ability to fly. Yet, despite his powers, he remained humble, his kind heart endearing him to all who knew him. Thor often challenged Cal to sparring matches, eager to test his strength against his adopted brother. On one such day, they squared off in the training grounds, surrounded by cheering Asgardians. "Come on, Cal," Thor shouted, swinging Mjolnir with gusto. "Let's see if you can handle the might of the god of thunder." Cal dodged the hammer with ease, his movements a blur. "Careful, Thor. You might hurt yourself," he teased, countering with a playful shove that sent Thor sprawling. The crowd erupted in laughter, and even Thor couldn't help but chuckle as he stood. "You've bested me again, brother, but next time I'll bring the lightning." Loki watched from the shadows, his jealousy growing with each passing day, While Thor basked in the attention and Cal earned admiration for his strength and kindness, Loki felt increasingly overshadowed. His cunning mind began to scheme ways to assert his own importance. Cal's first true test came when the Frost Giants launched a surprise attack on the Bifrost. The Asgardian warriors rallied to defend the realm, with Thor, Loki, and Cal at the forefront. The battle was fierce, the Frost Giants towering over their foes and wielding icy weapons that froze everything they touched. Cal's powers proved invaluable. He flew through the battlefield, his fists striking with the force of thunderclaps. His heat vision melted the Frost Giants' weapons, while his strength sent them reeling. At one point, a Frost Giant cornered Loki, its icy blade raised to strike. Cal appeared in an instant, shattering the blade with a single punch and sending the giant sprawling. "You're welcome," Cal said, offering Loki a hand. Loki scowled but accepted the help. "Don't think this means I owe you." The battle ended in victory, with Cal hailed as a hero. As the Asgardians celebrated, Odin placed a hand on Cal's shoulder. "You have proven yourself worthy, my son. Asgard is proud to call you one of its own." Cal smiled, but Loki's words from earlier echoed in his mind. In the depths of his heart, he couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't truly belong. Cal stood atop one of Asgard's towering golden spires, gazing out over the shimmering city. The winds were cool, but they didn't faze him. His mind churned with questions that had begun to surface after the battle with the Frost Giants. He had always felt different, even among the gods, but Loki's cutting words during the fight had reopened an old wound. Where do I truly belong? "You've been brooding up here long enough," Thor said, landing beside Cal with a thud. He held 2 goblets of mead, thrusting one into Cal's hand. "What's bothering you?" Cal hesitated, then took a sip of the drink. "Do you ever wonder about your purpose, Thor? About why you were chosen to be Odin's son?" Thor chuckled, his booming laugh echoing across the spires. "Chosen. I was born into it. I don't question the Norns' will. I live, I fight, and I protect Asgard. Simple as that." "For you, maybe," Cal said, his voice quieter. "But I wasn't born here. I don't even know where I come from." Thor clapped a hand on Cal's shoulder, his grin warm and reassuring. "You come from Asgard, brother. Odin declared it, and so it is." Cal nodded, but Thor's words did little to quell the growing uncertainty in his heart. In the depths of the palace, Loki paced in his chambers, his mind racing with schemes. The events of the Frost Giant battle replayed in his head, each memory stoking his frustration. Cal had once again stolen the spotlight, his powers overshadowing Loki's clever magic. To make matters worse, Thor, ever the favorite, had praised Cal openly in front of the court. Loki's eyes fell on an ancient tome resting on his desk. Within its pages were spells and incantations that delved into forbidden knowledge. He had been researching Cal's origins for months, piecing together fragments of information he had overheard from Odin and Frigga. A sly grin crept across Loki's face as he found the passage he had been searching for. It spoke of a realm far beyond the 9 realms, a place where stars gave birth to worlds, and where a great tragedy had scattered the remnants of a once powerful people. "So," Loki murmured, tracing the words with his finger, "you're not a god after all, Cal. You're an alien." The next day, Loki invited Cal to the palace library, feigning brotherly concern. "Cal," Loki began, his tone unusually kind, "I've noticed you've been troubled lately." Cal raised an eyebrow, wary of Loki's sudden warmth. "You could say that." "I thought as much," Loki continued, leading him to a hidden section of the library. "That's why I've taken it upon myself to help you. You've always wondered about your origins, haven't you? Cal's eyes widened. You know something. Loki nodded, pulling out the tome he had studied the night before. There are whispers in the ancient texts, stories of a distant world called Krypton, a world of incredible technology and powerful beings, a world that no longer exists. Cal's heart sank at the words. No longer exists. It was destroyed, Loki said, his voice dripping with mock sorrow. But you survived, Cal. Your parents sent you here, across the stars to escape its destruction, and now you stand among us, a remnant of a dead world. Cal's fists clenched at his sides, his mind reeling. Why wouldn't Odin tell me this? Loki placed a hand on his shoulder, his expression sympathetic. Perhaps he feared it would distract you from your duties, or perhaps he wanted you to believe you belonged here. Cal turned away, his gaze distant. I need to speak with Odin. Odin sat on his throne, his gaze heavy as Cal approached. You know, don't you? Cal said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. About Krypton. Odin sighed deeply, his age showing in the weariness of his expression. I do. And you didn't think I had a right to know? Cal demanded, his voice rising. I've spent my entire life wondering why I'm different, why I don't feel like I belong. You belong in Asgard, Odin said firmly. You were raised here, trained here. Your destiny is intertwined with ours. But I'm not one of you, Cal said, his voice cracking. I'm not a god. I'm something else entirely. Odin stood, his presence commanding. You are my son. That is all that matters. Cal shook his head, stepping back. It's not enough. I need to find out who I am. I need to know the truth. Frigga appeared in the doorway, her face etched with concern. Cal, please. Whatever answers you seek, they won't change who you are to us. But Cal's mind was made up. He turned and walked away, his cape billowing behind him. As Cal wrestled with his identity, Loki seized the opportunity to further his schemes. He reached out to the Frost Giants, promising them revenge against Asgard. In exchange, he offered them information about Cal's vulnerabilities, knowledge he had gleaned from the ancient texts. The Frost Giants, eager to reclaim their honor, launched another assault on the Bifrost. This time, their target was clear: Cal. The battle was fierce, with Cal fighting valiantly alongside Thor. But Loki's betrayal was revealed when he led a contingent of Frost Giants into the palace itself. Their goal was to capture Cal and deliver him to their realm for study and destruction. Thor confronted Loki in the throne room, his anger boiling over. What have you done, brother? What I had to do, Loki sneered. Cal doesn't belong here. He never has. You've endangered us all, Thor roared, charging at Loki. The brothers clashed, their blows shaking the palace. Meanwhile, Cal faced the Frost Giants in the courtyard, his powers barely keeping them at bay. The Asgardians rallied around him, their faith in Cal unwavering despite his doubts. In the end, the Frost Giants were defeated, but the cost was great. Cal stood amidst the wreckage of the battle, his heart heavy. Loki had been imprisoned, but his words lingered in Cal's mind. You don't belong here. Cal turned to Thor, his voice quiet. I need to leave, Thor. I need to find out where I came from. Thor's expression was pained but understanding. Then go, brother. But know that wherever you go, Asgard will always be your home. Cal nodded, his resolve firm. His journey of self-discovery had begun. Cal soared through the vast expanse of space, leaving the gleaming spires of Asgard behind. Frigga's gift, a small, enchanted compass glowing with soft light, hovered before him, its magic pointing the way to his origins. The journey was both exhilarating and haunting. The vastness of the cosmos was awe-inspiring, but Cal's thoughts were consumed by questions about his past. As he approached the coordinates the compass directed him to, a faint glow appeared in the distance. It was the shattered remains of a planet, its once great cities now floating debris. The destruction was absolute. Krypton was nothing more than an empty graveyard of stars. Cal's heart sank as he landed on a jagged platform of crystalline rock, its edges sharp and unwelcoming. In the center of the debris field stood a solitary structure, intact despite the devastation around it. He approached cautiously, the air eerily still. The structure glowed as he neared, a faint blue light radiating from its surface. As Cal stepped inside, the light coalesced into a holographic figure. A man and woman appeared, their expressions warm and proud. "Kal-El," the man said, his voice steady and kind. "If you are seeing this, it means you have found your way back to what remains of your home." Cal froze, his breath catching. Who are you?" "I am Jor-El," the man said, "and this is your mother, Lara." The woman smiled softly. "You are our son, Kal-El. We sent you away from Krypton to save you from its destruction." Cal's eyes glistened with emotion. "Why? Why me?" Jor-El's hologram seemed to look into Cal's very soul. "Because you carry the legacy of Krypton. Your abilities, your strength, your heart, they make you unique. You were sent not only to survive, but to bring hope to others." The weight of their words settled on Cal. He had always felt an innate drive to protect and inspire, but hearing it spoken aloud gave it new clarity. "But I've been living in Asgard. I've been raised as one of them." "And that is what makes you truly extraordinary," Lara said. "You're both Kryptonian and Asgardian. Your strength comes from more than your powers. It comes from the love and values you have gained from your family." Cal clenched his fists, a mixture of pride and sadness welling within him. "I'll make you proud, I promise." The holograms flickered and faded, leaving Cal alone with his thoughts. He now understood his purpose, to use the best of both worlds, Krypton and Asgard, to fight for justice across the realms. As Cal began his return journey, his thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice echoing through the void. "Leaving so soon, brother?" Cal turned, finding himself face to face with Loki, or rather, an illusion of him. "Loki?" Cal asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. "How are you here?" "Oh, I have my ways," Loki said, his smirk infuriatingly smug. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Cal crossed his arms. "I found what I needed. I know who I am now." Loki's expression darkened. "Do you, though? You may know where you came from, but that doesn't mean you belong anywhere. You're a relic of a dead world, Cal. An outsider." Cal's jaw tightened. "I'm not listening to you, Loki." The illusion chuckled, fading into the darkness. "We'll see." When Cal returned to Asgard, he found the realm in turmoil. Loki, despite his imprisonment, had managed to orchestrate a rebellion. Using dark magic, he had allied with Hela, the goddess of death, who had returned with her undead army to claim her place as ruler of Asgard. Thor met Cal at the gates, his armor battered, but his resolve unshaken. "Cal, you came back." "I couldn't leave Asgard in its time of need," Cal said. "Where's Loki?" Thor's face hardened. "He's with Hela. He betrayed us again." Cal's heart sank, but he pushed the thought aside. "What's the plan?" Thor gripped Mjolnir tightly. "We need to stop Hela before she takes the throne. If we don't, all of Asgard will fall." Cal nodded. "Then let's end this." The battle that followed was unlike anything Cal had ever faced. Hela's undead warriors swarmed the city, their numbers seemingly endless. Thor fought valiantly, Mjolnir smashing through the hordes with devastating force. Kal, channeling his newfound clarity, unleashed his Kryptonian strength and heat vision, cutting through the enemy ranks like a blazing comet. As they pushed deeper into the palace, they found Loki standing beside Hela in the throne room. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of guilt and defiance. "Loki," Kal said, stepping forward. "This isn't you. You don't have to do this." Loki sneered. "What would you know about me? You've always been the perfect one, the golden child. You don't understand what it's like to live in someone else's shadow." Kal shook his head. "I understand more than you think, but this isn't the way to prove yourself." Before Loki could respond, Hela stepped forward, her voice dripping with disdain. "Enough of this. If you wish to stop me, you'll have to do better than words." Thor and Kal exchanged a glance, then charged. The throne room erupted into chaos as the battle raged. Hela proved a formidable foe, her dark magic countering Thor's lightning and Kal's strength. Loki watched from the sidelines, torn between his loyalty to Asgard and his resentment toward his family. As Hela gained the upper hand, Loki made his choice. Summoning his magic, he struck Hela from behind, momentarily stunning her. "This doesn't mean I like you," he said to Kal and Thor, a faint smirk on his lips. Thor grinned. "We'll take what we can get." Together the brothers rallied, their combined efforts finally overwhelming Hela. Kal delivered the final blow, his heat vision piercing through her defenses and shattering her weapon. As Hela fell, her army disintegrated, leaving the throne room eerily silent. After the battle, Odin stood before his sons, his expression proud. "You have proven yourselves today, all of you." Kal glanced at Loki, who looked away but didn't leave. Thor clapped Kal on the shoulder. "Welcome back, brother." Kal smiled, the weight of his journey lifting. He still had questions, but for the first time he felt at peace with who he was and where he belonged. The golden halls of Asgard were quiet as the sun dipped below the horizon. The battle against Hela and her undead army had left scars across the city, but Asgard stood tall, its people resilient. Kal stood at the edge of the Bifrost, gazing at the shimmering expanse of the cosmos. Despite the victory, his heart felt heavy. Thor approached, Mjolnir resting at his side. "You've been out here all day. Brooding doesn't suit you, brother." Kal chuckled faintly. "I've been thinking about Krypton, about everything." Thor leaned on the railing beside him. "I don't need to be the All-Father to know what you're going to say. You're leaving." Kal hesitated, the words catching in his throat. "I feel like I've found my purpose, but it's bigger than Asgard. Krypton may be gone, but its legacy lives into me. And I think there's more I can do, beyond the 9 realms." Thor's smile was bittersweet. "You've always been the better of us, Kal. Wiser, stronger. But you'll always have a home here. Don't forget that." Kal clasped Thor's arm, their bond unshaken. "I won't." In the throne room, Odin presided over the aftermath of the rebellion. Loki stood before him, his head bowed. The All-Father's voice was stern, but not devoid of compassion. "You betrayed Asgard, but you also saved it. Your path has been difficult, Loki, but I sense there is still good in you." Loki's expression was unreadable. "You've said that before, Father, yet here we are again." Kal stepped forward, his presence commanding. "Loki, you've always been searching for something. Validation, recognition. But what you did today proves that you're more than just a trickster. You have the potential to be something greater." Loki glanced at Kal, his mask of indifference slipping for a moment. "Spare me the lecture, Kal-El. I know what I am." Kal's gaze softened. Then prove it. Not to me, or to Thor, or even to Odin. Prove it to yourself. Odin nodded, his expression thoughtful. You may remain in Asgard, Loki, but know that trust is a fragile thing, easily broken and hard to rebuild. Loki bowed his head, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. Thank you, Father. The following day, Asgard gathered in the Great Hall to honor the heroes of the battle. Thor, Loki, and Cal stood before the crowd, their presence commanding. Odin addressed the people, his voice resonant. Today, we celebrate not just a victory, but the strength of family. My sons have proven their worth, not only as warriors, but as protectors of Asgard. Thor, the god of thunder, Loki, the god of mischief, and Kal-El, the Skyborn protector. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the hall. Cal glanced at Thor and Loki, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. For a moment, he felt truly at peace. But as the celebration continued, Frigga approached him, her gaze filled with understanding. You're leaving, aren't you? Cal nodded. I have to, Frigga. Krypton may be gone, but I'm still its legacy. There's a universe out there that needs help. I can't turn my back on that. Frigga embraced him, her voice soft. You are more than we ever hoped for, Cal. You've brought honor to Asgard and to your parents. Wherever your journey takes you, know that you are loved. As the Bifrost hummed with energy, Cal stood at its center, his cape billowing in the cosmic winds. Thor and Loki flanked him, their expressions solemn. You'd better come back, Thor said, his voice gruff but warm. I don't want to have to clean up your messes. Cal smirked. I'll hold you to that. Loki stepped forward, his tone uncharacteristically sincere. I may not say this often, but Asgard will be lesser without you. Cal nodded, and you'll be greater for it. The Bifrost activated a pillar of light, engulfing Cal, as he turned to face his brothers one last time. Goodbye, Thor. Loki, until we meet again. And with that, he was gone, hurtling through the cosmos on a journey to bring hope and justice to a universe in need. In a distant realm, Cal landed on a barren planet, its people huddled in fear under the rule of a tyrant. As he stepped forward, his cape catching the wind, they looked up at him with a mix of awe and hope. Who are you? One of them asked. Cal smiled, the weight of his journey lifting. I'm Kal-El of Krypton, and I'm here to help. The people cheered, their hope rekindled as Cal prepared to face yet another challenge. The legacy of Krypton and Asgard burned brightly within him, a beacon of light in the darkness.